Let's take a look at some budget-friendly beginner sewing machines from Walmart. Brother LX3817 is a beginner sewing machine that comes in 3 different colors. It comes in white, blue, and gray. The machine includes 17 stitches and a 4-step buttonhole. This particular model only has 2 dials on it. One of them is the tension dial and the other is the stitch selection dial. You don't have the option to change out the stitch length and width independently. That's pretty good for a beginner, but that will not do for somebody who is a more advanced sewist. This model has a horizontal top loading bobbin, which is pretty common nowadays because it allows you to be able to see how empty or how full the bobbin is without having to open up a bobbin case. That's all well and good and everything if you're just doing some basic sewing projects. The only weird thing that I found about this model is that it has a screw on the front of the machine that is used for adjusting the buttonhole to make sure that the stitches come out even on both sides. I don't see too many machines with that particular feature, and it's a little bit weird, but other than that, this is a decent machine for a beginner just starting out. I'm kind of on the fence about this Singer M1150. There's mixed reviews about it online. Some people said that they didn't get a manual in their box, and others said that they had a difficult time threading the machine. However, there is an app that they do have that teaches you how to thread the machine and also that teaches you the basic functions of that machine. Another thing is that I believe that I saw a whole entire pallet of this same model machine at a local Ollie's that were refurbished. So I kind of think, about the 1150. But anyhow, this machine has 16 stitches on it and one 4-step buttonhole. It too only has 2 dials on the front of the machine, which are your tension dial and your stitch selection dial. And like I said before, this is wonderful for a beginner, but as you advance, you are going to want to select your stitch length and stitch width independently. The only true thing about this particular model that I would have an issue with would be the speed, and the speed is listed at 550 stitches per minute, which is like at a snail's pace. Here is yet another Singer sewing machine, and it is the Singer 7285Q Patchwork Edition machine, and that was a mouthful. Anyways, this is a computerized sewing machine with all of the features that you would expect to find on such a machine. It has your stop-start button, which allows you to sew without using the foot control. It also has a needle up down button, which allows you to raise the needle out of your fabric or lower it. It also has the speed control, and this is probably the most important computerized feature on the machine for a beginner because it allows you to have a maximum sewing speed for the sewing machine of your liking. Now, this machine only has a maximum speed of 750, which is quite slow for anybody who is a intermediate to advanced sewist, but it's just fine for a total beginner. Now, the 7285 has 100 built-in stitches on the machine, and 7 of those stitches are buttonholes, so that is ideal for somebody who is a garment maker and not necessarily designed for somebody who is a quilter. And I'm saying that for good reason because this machine is called the Patchwork Edition. Generally speaking, when you quilt pieces of fabric together to make a quilt top, you only are using a straight stitch. And there's 100 stitches on the machine, and I know that a lot of people like to use decorative stitches for quilting a quilt top, but this sewing machine is not going to quilt any large quilt top because it only has a throat space of 5.5 inches, and that is way smaller than the average sewing machine, which has a throat space of 7.5. So that's just not going to work for sewing together a large quilt top, but it will work for doing things like making a journal cover that's quilted or making a What else do you make that's quilted? I don't know, a pot holder or something of that nature. And those are all beginner projects. So that would be just fine for a beginner, but it's not going to work if you are a serious quilter. Another thing that I noticed from looking at information about this machine is that it doesn't have stellar reviews, but the overwhelming majority of the negative reviews were because the users were expecting more out of the machine than what they probably should. This is not your 100-year-old Singer sewing machine that you got from your great grandmother that lasts forever. It is a machine that's not meant to last forever. It's a short-term sewing machine to have. And also, this particular model is not meant for sewing heavyweight fabrics at all. The machine does weigh 14.8 pounds, so it will not bounce around on you as much when you're sewing, but it's just not designed for sewing through thick materials. And I think that I will just leave that right there. I'm about to talk to you about the fourth machine out of the bunch, but before I do, please do take the time to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and tap that notification bell to receive updates. This is the Janome Signature Charm sewing machine. It comes in a number of different colors, but the green one is exclusive to Walmart stores. If you want to know more about the different color variations of this machine, then you can go and check that out over on my website. There will be a link down in the description box below. I most enjoy the minty green color because it reminds me a lot of the vintage Kenmore sewing machines. And for those of you who don't know, Kenmore in the latter days of its production was actually produced by Janome. So maybe they are making a nod to the old school sewing machines by using this same minty green color for the design. I really enjoy that they did that, and I think it's just awesome. Before I get into really talking about the features of the Signature Charm, I have to tell you a little bit about my history with Janome itself. So I've had a number of vintage sewing machines over the years because I just love vintage sewing machines. However, my very first store-bought sewing machine was the Janome Sewist 500. That machine is no longer carried in stores, but the thing about it that made me want to trade up was the bobbin. A lot of the newer sewing machines out there have a top-loading bobbin with a clear bobbin case so that you can see how full or empty your bobbin is without having to take a peek at the bobbin every now and again. And at first that was a great feature, but I found that there were a lot of thread jams happening. Even though the machine was presented as being a jam-free machine, it just jammed up a lot because with it being a horizontal bobbin case and bobbin, that just wasn't a natural movement for the thread, so it would just get caught up in there sometimes, and that became really annoying. So that's really what caused me to upgrade. I mentioned all of this extra stuff because the Janome Signature Charm is the only machine in this beginner sewing machine lineup that offers a vertical front loading bobbin, and that is really a big deal because a lot of people say that a vertical front loading bobbin creates a better stitch, and that's just because the thread path is more direct and it's less likely to create loops, and it's less likely to catch, like the problem that I was having with that Sewist 500 that I had. Let's go on and talk about the other features of the Signature Charm. This machine has 15 stitches and one 4-step buttonhole. One of the great features about the Janome Signature Charm is that it does offer you a stitch length dial in addition to having the decorative stitch dial and the tension dial. So that is something that's different from all of the other beginner machines too, because you just get more buttons. So that means that this machine can grow with you as you advance in your sewing. This machine has a maximum speed of 800. It is not the fastest machine in the world, but it is a decent speed for a beginner. And it also won't be uncomfortable for you to sew at a speed of 800 as you get to be more advanced in sewing. The only gripe that I have with this signature charm is that it only has a 3-piece feed dog system. The feed dogs are what helps to feed the fabric through the machine. And when you only have 3 feed dogs, yes, it's easier for a narrow fabric to maneuver and turn, but it doesn't feed heavyweight fabrics through as well. So you will not be sewing any heavy duty fabrics with this machine because it only has a 3-piece feed dog and it's a lightweight machine. The signature charm weighs in at 12 pounds, which is the heaviest out of all of the beginners sewing machines that are fully mechanical that I've shown you. But at the same time, that's still pretty lightweight for a sewing machine. Now, I do realize that there are some other sewing machines out there by Janome with 3 feed dogs, and they work just fine. However, it's always better to have more feed dogs than less. Now, I never like to tell people what machine to get because everyone has a different machine that is right for them. But I hope that this small little review here will give you enough information to be able to make the best decision for you. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.